But, so, some people had, they're closing out their plants at the end of the year. And so I bought, 5 hollies. Supposedly they're all female. That there were any males. Now, will any other male holly pollinate it, or does it have to be that particular cultivar?
Oh,
I don't.
usually
I
I
think they're
know,
pretty not specific.
I know like viburnums, they don't have to be the same.
Yeah.
Any old male would be.
Yeah, it just can be.
Look, my neighbors, I just got some males on the outside of this house.
I'm thinking that's close enough.
That they pollinated.
I think the issue, is where's the nearest male?
Well, there's some across the street, and then
Oh,
my
there
neighbor
is?
has some on the other side of his house. He
Okay,
said he's got a holly tree.
I wanted to let you guys know you
So-
can have a notebook from my fair grant, and so I have extras.
Oh.
okay.
Wow.
Yeah, sustainable ag research and
Mr.
education.
Gray.
Yes, I am.
Did you bring the oil?
You don't
It's
have.
frozen. What are you talking about? Don't you know it's cold outside? Yes, I do, and I decided not to put the effort. Wherever it's not frozen, it's muddy.
I've got 2 hollies.
So if I get kicked out of this class,
But I've never
so
had
be it.
berries.
Okay.
my other dirt class. when I'm
Do the
still-
males have the-
Or do
I think they do too.
We'll see.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll
Got the little
see.
white
Casey,
So that from what I read, the only.
Greg said if I call this a dirt class, they-
Oh,
Just-
yeah, they can't call it a dirt.
Well-
I had to catch myself saying, like, talking to my friends, and they're like, oh, you know what, it's the dirt, and I'm like, no, it's soil, it's living, like, I have to explain it.
Dirt is like a light.
Well, we now have one berry. Males or these females.
Don't tell mommy if I'm gonna turn down the heat because,
Yeah.
she likes it 75 in here.
Oh.
I got it
Okay.
to 72.
It's really hot. We're not salad, they.
75.
We got roasted the other evening in that little
Oh, yeah.
antique.
Yeah.
Well, it's here today.
That's not good when you go outside, though. It's more
Yeah.
And she was like, that was why I found out the next day, it was like 76. And it was like, and she was home, and today she was like, it's so freezing, and it was 72, and I was like, what's the temperature you keep your house at? She's like, well, cold. But it's, it's because that darn, these darn, brick walls at the edges suck all the heat out from their legs, so
Oh,
it's their
every day,
legs
too.
that get so cold. So
Oh.
I want to bring a little lamp. I figure something out. They do have a space heater, but I don't want a freezer either, but. So I need to get it like, so it goes down to 72 at night and then maybe goes up to 74 in the morning before she gets here. Before she gets here.
I turn mine down at night to like 64.
Yeah,
we-
these
I don't
are
like that
freezer
hot.
those too. It's actually apparently
You
good
sleep
for
better.
longevity.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
It apparently
yeah.
makes you live longer too.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I can't stand sleep where it's hot.
So I'm sorry, it's kind of hot in here. I should have turned it down before, but she didn't leave till just recently. So anyway, she told me not to turn it down more. I'm like, see, I was raised, my dad, you never touch those.
Right, they got sad and it.
Yeah, I just put on more clothes when I was cold, took off more clothes when I was hot. I mean,
Yeah.
geez, but, yeah. I've never had so much autonomy to go change. You know what I mean? Like, so. But Pat said one time he was made, when they were doing some sort of like, website, and he's never had that much contention when you deal with temperatures in the office, like he gets really stressful because people are like,
Yeah.
so I don't want to deal with all that, obviously, but I'm sorry you guys are hot right now, so.
No,
Hey,
it's
darling.
okay.
Dawn's coming too.
You can have one of these if you want. It's a, Sarah. Oh, Gary's here. It's a Sarah, notebook. Gary's here online.
Online.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, Elaine, I have something to give you. Don't forget. Okay. Here's mine.
Well, let me know if anybody needs anything. I'm here for the ride myself.
Okay.
I'm excited.
Well.
I like your producer jacket shirt, Bruce. How are you? Good to see you, Don. You can have one of these if you want. It's a Sayre notebook.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
you're welcome. This is Casey. I'll introduce you eventually. Sorry, Casey, I haven't introduced you to everybody.
Sorry, I'm looking away.
No, you're not late at all. In millennial time, you're early.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. See you, Trinity.
Oh, let's see, with Joe, the military time.
He's late.
Oh,
You're late.
yeah.
If you're 5 minutes early, you're late.
Well, if you're not 15 minutes early where you have to be, then you're late.
Loretta's here from Florida too. Hi, Florida friends. I bet you can hear us. Can you hear us online, Loretta? So they should be able to hear us right there. We'll see.
Hello. Like this room.
Hi. Yes, you can have one of these.
We were just talking
Yeah,
about
I know.
how warm it was in here. I'll be very happy.
Okay.
She does not. We got a room together then.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Anybody else need? No, I'm working.
Loretta said she can barely hear us. So let's see.
Okay. Business, if I'm in the No, I was on last week. Actually, I am from the south, and just for a short pen 1 week. Let's see. Lace, do we have some extra pens around here?
Probably.
My husband has a convention
Let me get one.
in Orlando, so we're gonna start off with the convention. Palm Prestige. To visit my friend in the beach. And then in the week, everything is the world.
Yeah.
This isn't enough for everybody, but I can get more if necessary.
If I can get that, I can sit back here, maybe in the, on that louder and then.
I'll put my mask on. Okay, so they can't hear very well, so I'm gonna bring this closer to you if I can.
Gonna put it,
Pretty good.
because I don't know if you're quiet or not. Are you like me and quiet and not quiet?
Sometimes.
Yeah, I totally understand.
I try to not be quiet.
Yeah, I think you're quiet. I'm gonna say you're quiet.
Let's see if this is.
Let's see if she can hear us now. You want to do a test?
Can you hear me?
Sounds good.
Oh, perfect.
Yay. Thanks.
Yes, hi.
Oh, good. Hi, Vicki.
Oh, Gary's also in Florida, so they're kind of rubbing in. A little bit rubbing in.
Oh, man. I've
But that's
never,
what's so nice about hybrid, you can have one people from lots of different places. It's fun.
I can finish dinner if I needed more dinner.
We have 11 people online and we have 14 people here. And Teresa and Steve, I'm counting as one person, so there's even more people online.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Her daughter got exposed to COVID at work, but now she's got these symptoms, but she's done 2 tests and they came back negative, but Martha says she sounds horrible. She's got it in her chest. I said, oh, well, there's a whole variety of
One of my
viruses.
boys.
It's crazy.
I've never had those in the ground. I think they eat, all of them eat, bad bugs, those hornets do. They're good for
I
them.
mean, did they stay in the young?
I think they might. Yeah, I think they hibernate. A lot of the native bees hibernate in the stem of the plants. That's why they don't want you cleaning your garden up.
It's true.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna bother anybody back here standing.
No, you're good.
That's why I went it back.
You're like you're doing the stand-up desk thing. It's good.
I need to do that. I'll be up in there.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, I guess I'll start. My name is Lace McCartney. You guys probably know me, and this is our new friend, Casey Kennett. She comes all the way from, well, you'll tell us where you're from, but Greene County.
Greene County.
And she's our regional soil water conservation district urban specialist. And Indiana really cares about soil. That's a really big topic. And so it's so nice that they're, that you guys are helping us to know how to take care of our soil. And what I would love for us to get out of this is that there's going to be a working group, hopefully starting in Hancock County with Casey, with the Soil Water Conservation District, with the NRCS, and hopefully a master gardener committee. It sounds like we're like at Notre Dame. This is big. It's someone's phone, but it sounds really cool. So thanks. But anyway, so we're going to hopefully have a working group that maybe we can go and help people in their gardens and learn about their soil. And then the Urban Soil Water Conservation District would give money to the working group that we could hopefully help people with soil tests or whatever the working group decides to do with that money. So it basically comes back to our county to help more people with their soil. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Casey. Thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. At home, if you guys have any questions, or I'm going to be on the Zoom myself, and let us know if you can't hear anything. So we want you to be able to hear at home.
Yes. Okay, well, hi, everyone. I am Casey Kennett, and like Lay said, I am from actually Southwest Indiana, so Greene County. We had snow there this morning when I left, so no snow over here this way. I'm going to talk more about the Urban Soil Health Program that Lay's kind of mentioned and what we do. So let's just get into it. So the Urban Soil Health Program, it's a new initiative. It's a contribution agreement between USDA, NRCS, and IASWCD, a whole mouthful. And this also includes additional support from 15 local SWCDs. And Hancock County was actually one of those counties that contributed to this, this program. So we really want to give back to Hancock County and get some urban soil health here. It's modeled off of Warwick County down south. They had this program initially, and now it's kind of turned into a statewide thing. There's one program director and there's 4 regional soil health specialists. So our mission is to improve soil health on Indiana's urban and community small-scale agricultural land. It is our goal to reach those that won't normally qualify for assistance with NRCS, like EQIP, funding like that. That usually goes to larger landowners. So we really want to reach out to the small landowners that don't usually get funded and miss out on some things. So urban and small scale ag examples, the types of people that we want to target are market farms and gardens, community farms, church farms, school farms, getting local FFAs involved and 4-H clubs, nonprofit farms, institutional, such as hospitals, universities, and prisons, demo gardens, research farms, the master gardeners, with extension and your local SWCD, and even individuals, their backyard and home gardens. So there's a lot of people that we really want to reach out to, just everybody that we can. Any type of production, a small footprint, small acreage, diverse farm, whether that be organic, vegetable crops, fruit trees, just any type of diverse crop. Mixed perennials such as blueberries. We've even talked to people with flower farms. So the possibilities are really endless. So where do we start? First step is establish a local urban soil health working group, which is why we're here tonight. We've had meetings, the IASWCD with Purdue Extension, with Vicki, the Master Gardeners, Cindy Newkirk with the local SWCD, Sydney Lockett, I believe, with NRCS. So there's a lot of people involved with this. So we want this local group to be responsible to advise on issues in your area and promote opportunities that will relate to urban and small farm soil health, provide technical assistance, host workshops, educational initiatives, whether that be providing educational material to your community, putting on a field day, putting newsletters or articles in your local newspaper. There's lots of things that this working group can do. So who makes up a working group? We've really kind of talked about it a lot. The Indiana Conservation Partnership staff, SWCDs, NRCS, Extension, DNR could be a possibility. State parks, they have local friends groups. Those might be an option. Local producers, farmers, gardeners, environmental professionals, master gardeners again, nonprofits, really anyone who is interested and willing to work on this type of work and promote urban soil health on small farms. So basically with everyone here, we're kind of considered a working group. So what qualifies as a working group? There are some things that you do have to do, but it shouldn't be much more than what you're already doing in your organizations. We would like for it to be composed of a minimum of 3 organizations, which we've talked about. Meet at least 4 times a year. That could be quarterly. You could meet more, you could meet less, just as long as you're meeting at least 4 times a year. Hosting a minimum of 1 soil health educational event. So you could partner with Purdue Extension to put something on, just anything with a local landowner, go out to their farm and do a site visit, host a field day there. So lots of possibilities. Covering your area, site visits, technical assistance, educational events and materials. That's really the core of what we want this group to provide to the community. We'd like for you to establish a list of your local resource concerns. They may be different in different areas, so you'd want to establish those accordingly. And also attend training from our staff, such as, I guess you would kind of consider this one here today more of a training. I'm going to talk about how to do a site visit later so that you'll feel comfortable going out and talking to the landowners, and feel like you have the resources to do that. So that's available, whether that be training, from me or our staff, or if there's, another local speaker that say, hey, I really want to hear from them. We'll make that connection and, have those trainings available for the working group. Also, if there's any questions, feel free to ask at any time. I'm happy to stop. Same with the chat. If there's any questions online, I'm happy to stop. The second part of this, the money, that's kind of the important part. So for doing a site visit, each initial visit with the landowner, going out, assessing their resource concerns, we do have a site visit form that you can take with you kind of as a guide. I'll show that later. That will be a good guide for you to ask questions things that the landowner may have not thought of, talk about soil testing. There's all kinds of stuff with that. So each site visit will be $100 reimbursed. And all of this money will be reimbursed back to the working group. Usually the SWCD will be the financial person, so they'll hold the funds, but the working group ultimately decides what those funds are going to be used for, whether it's education. We have other working groups in the Southwest that offer free soil sampling. They'll go out and offer, I think, the first 2 tests are free. And they'll go out and assist the landowner and actually help them bag the soil sample and send that off. And then follow up with the landowner, which would be your technical assistant. So once you get that soil test back, they're going back out and reviewing those results and then coming up with a plan of action for that. So the technical assistance is $150. So right here, $250 for one landowner to go out, do a site visit and follow up with technical assistance. And this, like I said, will all come back to the working group and you guys will be able to decide what you want to do with those funds. So, sure, I don't have anything else to say on that. Next, with financial support for educational events. So if you put on an educational event, we will reimburse, costs of that. The average cost is around $1,000, but we will pay, more if the need is there. We do require a 25% match. So that would be, your time, if there's putting programs together, small work like that, like administrative work, that will count towards your match towards this, as well as educational material. We will also reimburse for that. So any like signage, fact sheets, videos, we will reimburse for that. Any questions? I hope I'm not rushing.
It feels like we're not trying to sign up for like a condo or something. This is like real.
No, and this
The
is,
state of Indiana is helping us.
and this, it's free money. I mean, really, you just have to go out and do the site visit, which I'm sure most of you, might like to do that, go out and you're all master gardeners. So being out, talking soil health. We don't want to add any work to what anybody's doing. We just kind of want to hop along with you.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Skipping ahead. Yeah, we'll just, there we go. So I already said that payments, they must be kept in a separate financial account. Usually, like I said, the SWCD will hold those funds. Once accrued, the payment can be used for the local working group, whether that be cost shared, maybe with cover crop seed. Like I said, the soil tests, demonstration, garden and materials. We can't reimburse speaker fees. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Completely backwards. We can reimburse speaker fees. I cannot talk, you guys. Let me grab a drink.
Get a drink. Also, Vicki wants to mention the Green Thumb Soil Program. This education session is to prepare the master gardeners so that we'll be able to answer questions when people ask during that time. So we're not going to be professional soil scientists, even after this training. But we know much more about soil, even just what we've learned this past year, than many of our neighbors do in our community. And that's the whole point. We're helping our neighbors.
Yeah, and really, I think we're all kind of learning together because I'm still learning things as well. I learn things all the time. So yeah. So back to the reimbursements. So those can include speaker fees and honorariums, towards your field days and events like that. We can't include food costs. So that would be, on the working group, to provide that. We can't cost share on equipment or materials for private land. So just a few things, but really, you know, I feel like I've said the possibilities are endless quite a few times, but they really are with this working group. So this is more about what I can do for you. So with education, I can set up tours and field days, whether that be me helping give a tour or we go visit a site and we see, you know, what they have going on, presentations and workshops, same, whether it be me presenting. We can continue this into a series and talk more in depth about urban ag and the ag management systems, tools and equipment, go more in depth on how to read a soil test once you get those results back, lots more things, and to be a resource for continuing education. Outreach, I've mentioned newspapers, newsletter articles. I'm sure Lace, you've got a Purdue Extension newsletter that goes out maybe?
Mostly social media. I don't have a newsletter.
Okay.
That was one day maybe I could do that, but I know the Master Gardeners have a newsletter.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, perfect. So yeah, anything that the working group is doing that can be included to let people know what you're doing and that these services are available. Provide information for farmers market. I don't know if there's farmers market here, is there? Those have been popping up, so that's a good place to reach individuals. We can facilitate other meetings and connect with other partners. The site visits and technical assistance. I'm here to accompany you, not necessarily do all the site visits, but here to get you prepared and go with you so that you feel comfortable going out and talking to the landowners and assessing their concerns and developing plans and things like that. I'm also here to help offer feedback with technical assistance and then help with any financial planning. So whatever the working group wants to do, you know, with their money and things like that. So I can help with that.
Got a question on you've got small farm soil health. What is considered a small farm?
You know, it could be a backyard garden up to, you know, 10 acres of land in your backyard. Really anything, like we just really want to encompass anything that doesn't get encompassed with NRCS, like the bigger, you know, 1,000-acre farms and, you know, that type of stuff. But really anybody, I mean, even 25 acres, you know, still small. However, we can help with soil health, really.
Okay.
Yeah. So where do we start as a working group? We can plan an educational event, do the outreach. That is kind of probably a quick way to get your name out there and maybe not cost the working group anything right off the bat. Site visits and technical assistance. This is really the quickest way to receive financial support from the association. We can provide assistance to underserved landowners and land users and promote urban soil health. So we're going to talk more about site visits because, like I said, that's the quickest way for you guys to get funds and then to get the ball rolling and to get other things happening. So we really want to talk about that. So site visits and technical assistance, we've kind of thrown around the idea of having a contact person in the working group to just be that point person for coordinating the site visits. You know, if there's a lot of you that would like to do site visits, we love that. But maybe having one person to coordinate the different partners and everything together is a good idea. So this is also where our partnerships come in. So Lays, I don't know if you get any phone calls, you know, lots of urban phone calls and you're like, what do I do?
Well, I've never done a soil health visit. That's the thing. I feel bad. I talk to them a lot about their plants, but I've really never, I have done soil tests,
Yeah,
but this is much more encompassing. So I feel like it'd be a much better.
this kind of
broad
opens it up
help.
to,
Yes.
yeah.
yes. So I don't even think they would call to ask about it, obviously, but then I could say, this is available to you.
Yeah.
And I'm sure people would love that. They like
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Same with the local SWCD. I'm sure they get phone calls all the time. You know, we'd like to pick up those people that don't qualify for anything in their offices. We can use the site visit form to assist when asking the landowner questions. There is a follow-up with resources and materials for the landowner. Technical assistance is what we call that. And remember, each site visit completed is $100 reimbursed to the working group, and initial follow-up is $150. So $250 for each one. I don't know if you'll be able to see this.
Yeah, sorry, the top, I can't get rid of that darn top thing.
This PowerPoint will be available to you guys, as well as these documents. I can send a Lace, so they can be sent to you guys as well. This is our site visit form. Pretty standard of, you know, date of the site visit, name, name of the working group, the address, county. There's no real like specific information like, you know, farm numbers or anything like that. There's a place for the objective, the reason for your visit, the resource concerns. Down in the little check boxes, we have what type of operation it is, whether it's a community garden, a market garden, home garden, church, nonprofit, you know, there's just all kinds of options. So that way we really tried to cover everything, so that this could be a good guide for everyone as they go out. Types of vegetables produced, fruit, livestock, production activities, whether they have raised beds, permanent beds, high tunnels, if they're organic, if it's heavily tilled, mulching, compost, cover crops, crop rotation, like there's just all kinds of options on here on this guide. So you'll fill that out as you go through the site visit. That should kind of give you an idea of, you know, what you're going to be working with. Did you have a
I have a
question?
question. What does a resource concerns mean? Because I wouldn't know what that means. Sorry. I don't know what it means.
So I guess depending on what the person is wanting to do, you know, maybe they already have a garden and they have lots of flooding, or they have lots of runoff. Or, you know, something's not growing in a certain area and we want to figure out why it's not growing there. You know, nutrient management, pest management is, you know, a resource concern. Really anything that they're wanting to work on.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah. This form is 3 pages. It's kind of long, but there's enough space in there for you to write lots of notes. There is a place to talk about soil testing, if they've ever had a soil test done, and you can discuss that. There's also, let's see. Can't hardly read this on my paper. Methods to address resource concerns such as, you know, cover crops, no tilling, adding compost or adding mulch. There's a place where you can say what you performed on the site, whether you took photos, if you brought a map of the site, you can go, if you know where you're going beforehand, Google Maps is a good place to just, you know, kind of pinpoint what you're looking at. You can kind of tell a little bit from the picture, you know, whether it's green, whether it's really brown, light brown, dark brown. The map is a good thing to take with you as well. The slump assessment, which is what I have here today, so we'll talk about that. It's a really quick and easy little demonstration to do out in the field, and it's just a good visual to have. And like I said, something quick to show the landowner what you're doing. There's just some other little things, and that's basically it for the site visit form. There's also a technical assistance form, I didn't post that on here, but it's similar to the site visit. It's not as long, but it will kind of guide you through what kind of technical assistance you can provide the landowner. Next, we've got the reimbursement invoice. This is just what the working group would send back to me to get reimbursed for what you guys have done. So basically, it's just to keep track of, site visit or educational event. You put that in there and send that to me and we reimburse. So I think that's all I had on the working group. Anybody have any questions about the working group? Yes.
On the site visit is $100,
Mhm.
all right? So we do that, we go back and research. So we go back to them and say, okay, it's $150 to tell you what needs to get fixed.
So you actually don't charge them, the landowner, anything. Basically, you would just go out on your own time and do a site visit and just kind of keep track of that and send that invoice to me. And then we would reimburse the working group
For your time.
for your time.
Yeah, we get to
$100. You're like paying. the working
Yes,
group.
we're paying you. And then once,
They don't have to pay.
no, the homeowner doesn't have to pay for
Oh, okay,
anything.
okay.
So it's really a good deal all around. They get assistance, you guys get to go out, and then you get reimbursed for the work that you've done.
I have a question. What do you get? I mean, you're paying to get these assessments of different land.
Mhm. So like, what do we as the program?
With the information that we turn into you,
Mhm.
what do you do that and how does that help?
Well, really, we're just trying to get the word out about soil health. So the more people that you guys see and the more site visits you go on, that's just more soil health practices being done. So that's really kind of what we're just trying to do, is to just, help those landowners with their vegetables. Growing vegetables has become a more popular thing in the last few years. So really, we're just here to provide assistance and be a resource.
On something that may not be working the way they think it should, or
Yes,
to give them ideas on how to make it better.
yes, yep. I mean, yeah, the working group can
And
advise
that would
on,
come in on the second half of where the 150 comes in. When you go back and reassess, you can give them information on what they can do to improve their soil.
yep, we can talk, cover crop practices. Whether they, if it's a heavily tilled area, then, they decide that I'm not gonna walk on that area. Just even if it's small changes, to just work towards soil health. Yeah, yes.
So this money that you give the working group,
Mhm.
where does that come from? Is it from a grant that started your program?
Yeah, that was the contribution agreement between NRCS and IASWCD. They put money together for this initiative, as well as the 15 local SWCD. So Hancock County was one of those that contributed money to this
So
program.
they're just going back into the ones that contributed and helping them.
Well, it's a statewide effort, but you guys contribute, Hancock County contributed money, so we really want to give back to Hancock County.
Because it's good to know where it's coming from.
Yeah.
Because we're probably gonna get asked that.
Yeah,
Yes.
sure.
And it's only like 5-year grant right now.
Yes.
You're trying
Yep, just
to-
5.
Yes, so it's not maybe forever, but we're really trying to get the word out because a lot of our soil leaves Indiana and it goes down to the Gulf of Mexico. We don't want to lose our soil. You know what I mean?
Runoff, do the runoff.
Yeah.
And so it's a big deal to try to keep our soil here in Indiana. Even in the backyards, our backyards are losing soil too.
And
With us being Hancock County master gardeners, we live in Henry County. Does it only apply to Hancock County, or would you go into Henry County for a work site?
working groups, there's no boundaries. So, if if Hancock and Henry County wanted to form something together, they do that, no problem. Yeah, there's no boundaries.
Vicky mentioned alphabet soup, so maybe you should say what SWCD stands for.
Oh, Soil and Water Conservation Districts. Yes,
And, you know, NRCS started a long time ago after the Dust Bowl. You know, after they were tilling and tilling out in the west. And they lost so much soil, that's when they started doing the soil conservation services. So this is just part of that growth out of realizing, oh, our soil is a living thing that we need to take care of.
yeah. Do you have a question?
Yes, Master Gardeners currently has a couple of outreach programs where we're overseeing or supervising like a school garden, flower garden, what have you. Or we also have a green thumb event, a couple of those type of things. Can those be piggybacked onto this program, or can this program be piggybacked onto them?
Yes, yes, they can.
Okay, how does that mechanics of that work? I mean, you know, currently Master Gardeners is currently doing that.
Well, the only thing that has to be kept separate is the funds. But, you know, if you already have a Master Gardener event, but you want to pull in the working group, have working group individuals be there at the event as well. You can still get reimbursed for the educational material and that type of stuff. Yep.
Very
Yep.
good.
Yep. We want things to work together.
I feel like rain gardens are perfect for that. Like we have a person on here that totally talks about rain gardens. She'd be great with technical
Yeah.
assistance for that. And
Yeah.
people are dealing with flooding a lot.
Yep.
So it's a very, it's hard to imagine that it's so overreaching, but I mean, it is connected, very
Mhm.
connected.
And technical assistance doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go back out to the landowner's farm. It could be a follow-up email, phone call. You know, if you're sending an email with fact sheets or something like that, that counts as technical assistance. So anything like that. Yes.
Are the soil tests costly to the farmer or the home gardener?
I have not done a soil test in a couple years, so I don't know if the price has changed. I used A&L Labs in Fort Wayne, and I think it was about $13.75 a test,
It's like
a standard
20. It's
test.
like
Is that right? Is it 20 now?
Yes.
Okay, so about $20 a test.
Does the working group pay for that or the home or the garden?
The homeowner would have to pay for that, unless the working group, you know, once they have funds, they decide that, hey, we want to give each landowner one free soil test, then the working group can pay for that.
So that would put out of the money that they got for being the working group, you could
Yes.
take $20 out of the 100 to pay
Yes.
for soil.
Mhm, yes, yeah, otherwise, yeah, the landowner would have to pay for that initial one. So, okay, any more questions? Okay. So we'll hop into the what is soil health? So soil health, we define that as the continued capacity of the soil to function as a vital living ecosystem that sustains plants, animals, and humans. So their function, the soil's function, is to infiltrate and store and filter water, provide physical structure, to cycle nutrients, and to provide a habitat for soil life. So here we're going to talk about the 4 soil health principles. I don't know if you've heard that before. We used to have this with more of the larger row crop farm, and we've redone this to kind of fit more of an urban ag setting. So we want to minimize disturbance, maximize soil cover, and maximize biodiversity, and maximize continuous living roots. So we want to maximize as much as we can. So the minimized disturbance and the maximized soil cover, that will protect the soil. So minimizing your disturbance, less walking, less equipment running over that. That will help protect the soil, and maximizing your soil cover, leaving cover crops on, leaving your garden plants out to hold that soil in place. That will protect the soil. Then maximizing your continuous living roots, and you're maximizing biodiversity. If you have living roots and you've got, living bugs and worms and pollinators, things in your soil, that will feed the soil and, just continue to enrich the soil. So benefits of soil health, we have increased plant health, increased plant productivity. We have an increase in soil organic matter. Your soil water holding capacity increases. So the soil is able to hold more, and there's less runoff of nutrients. We've got increased water infiltration, improved nutrient use. So the plants are readily and able to take up those nutrients easier. We've got enhanced and diversified soil biology. There's more life in the soil, more life above the soil. There's reduced weed pressure and reduced pest pressure. So really the benefits, there's just so many benefits of soil health. So why do we soil test? What are our goals? If we want to know prior land use before growing food, if we have contamination concerns, especially in urban areas, if there's an empty lot and that gets purchased and somebody wants to put a community garden in there, having a soil test is a good way to know the history of that land. If there's been industry, on the land, any gas leaks, any type of contamination, having a soil test is a good thing to have. We can learn nutrient deficiencies and also an abundance of nutrients. Let's say you've never soil tested, but you continually apply fertilizers or things like that. You may have an abundance and you may realize, oh, I need to back off of some things. Helps maintain your pH. And if it's never been done before, it's a good starting point to getting to soil health. So some considerations when soil testing, you should soil test annually or up to every 3 years, depending on, where you're at in your management plan. Some growers might do every 6 months if there's like a contamination issue and they want to see how that's progressing. Being consistent in your process, doing it at the same time every year. So if you soil test in the spring, you should soil test next spring. So that way the soil test reads at the same time instead of doing one in the spring and then doing one in the fall. You may have a difference. From taking, if you've had a certain crop on and then you take that crop off, it may take nutrients out as well. Same beds or in similar areas and also at the same depth. You also want to use consistent labs so that way you have accurate test results. I think some labs, I've heard they might have a little bit of a difference with their results. So if you use the same lab, you should be consistent throughout. So how do we collect a soil sample? You want to determine where you're taking the samples, depending on how big the area is. You may want to take, I say no more than 3, or no less than 3, I'm sorry, no less than 3 samples. 3 samples will really kind of give you a good mix of what the area is. You could take, up to 5 samples, or you could take up to 10 samples, really depending on how big your area is and how much you want to pay out for those soil tests as well. Let's see, so then you want to determine the proper depth to collect samples. Gardens, we usually say the first 6 inches. Yes.
Okay, so a long time ago, I did a soil sample for some previous place I used to live. And so basically they come to different spots in the yard and get one sample. So that's what I did. I went to 3 different locations
Perfect.
and created this. So when you say no less than 3 samples, you mean 3 mixed samples or 3? I guess define that better.
So what you have, like what you've done where you've gotten 3 different samples and mixed that into one sample, that would be one sample that you're going to send off. So I would say, yes, 3, if you're going to do that, get 3 different points to mix your sample. I wouldn't say, get 2 from 2 different spots, just from one spot. If you've got 3, if you've taken from 3 different spots, then you kind of get a more accurate reading of what you might have in the soil. I'm not explaining that very well.
So like if it's her turf, it's all in the turf you're checking. But like if you did
Yes.
the garden, and you did 3 in that one garden, but in different places, but it's still the garden. That you
Yes.
have the
Yes, so like if you go to your garden and you take 3 different samples, then you combine that into one sample to send off. So that way you're not getting just a reading like at the corner of your garden. You've got a reading, from the whole garden.
I did it 3 different gardens, but they're close and they're cared for in a similar way
Yeah, that should be still okay.
versus getting them from like the grass. Right.
Yeah.
Somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that's kind of thing that you could help with, or like like I should be able to help with, hopefully.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have questions about that.
Yeah. I'm trying to, so say you've got a perfect square garden. I would take a sample at each of the corners and one towards the middle. And then combine those all together to have one sample, for one sample. If you did 5 spots, if you did 3 spots, you might start at one corner, go to the middle, and then to the opposite corner, and then combine those. So you have, yes, yeah, of all of it, of the whole thing. So that way, so you're not just testing one area. So if you test one area and you have a nitrogen deficiency in one area, but maybe you don't in another area. So if you test it all, you get more information, I think. Does that make sense?
They explained it in 3 and 4 different ways, so I can get it.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. So back to the depth. We want to go to like the first 6 inches. You want to get out kind of the grass, the roots. You just really want to get the soil to send to the lab. Back to mixing your samples. Mix in a clean container. Don't mix in like a galvanized bucket because that could skew your results with the nutrients. Your sample should be dry before shipping. They dry it out at the lab anyway, but you don't want a sopping wet sample to go. And then you fill out the form and then you mail your sample to the lab. Usually with A&L labs, I think you can get a sample back like 11 to 14 days. So they're pretty quick. So here you can see, I have a soil probe up here as well, but you can see, how much 6 inches is, taking a core sample, and then combining all your core samples together to get your one sample to send off. Like I said, mix in a clean container. You don't want to use galvanized or anything that's been used for something previously that, may have had, who knows, gasoline, dish soap, whatever, an empty container. Make sure it's clean. Here's some contamination considerations. In urban areas, I come from a farm background, so getting into the urban stuff, I hadn't really thought about all these things, but these are things to consider. Paint, having a lead contamination in urban areas, high traffic areas near roadways, emissions from cars and things like that. Treated lumber facilities, those may cause contamination issues. Burn sites, contaminated manure, sewage may be a contamination issue, spills, petroleum spills, and pesticides can also be an issue. Dry cleaners, I've come to find out, has been an issue. I think that there's some type of chemical in the wash that would get dispersed out, and that would cause contamination issues. If you're wanting to plant a garden on top of that. So this is why we soil test. Here's a soil form. I don't know if you guys have seen these. I'm sure some of you have. Pretty easy. Just fill out who it's submitted by, your basic information, the site. A standard report is usually what I suggest. Standard 1A test. It gets you like your basic nutrients. You can fill out the other side with your previous crop information, or if it's a garden, if you've got, maybe what you're wanting to plant, you can fill that stuff in and they will give you recommendations based off of that. But I think that's just optional.
I think Marianne had. another
Yes.
Um, so will it tell you about the contaminants?
Not like lead and things like that. You'd have to send that off to a different lab. And I don't think that A&L does that.
No.
Do you know what lab might?
There's one in Chicago that does.
Okay.
So you have to know what you're testing. Because if you ask a lab to test randomly, there's so many different,
Well, there's.
so you have to know what you're testing for.
Yeah. So here's a soil test report. You can see the organic matter over on the left side, 4.5. You get your soil pH, it's at 6.8. Then you can see the other nutrients, if it's very high or low. You can also, at the very bottom, that's where they had their soil fertility recommendations. So if you'd put in like that previous crop and that type of information, they would come up with some recommendations here at the bottom. I know this is small, but here's a list of soil labs. I know I mentioned A&L labs a lot. I use them, but there are others out there. So, yep. Do you have any questions on soil testing?
And we have probes here, if you want to borrow them, probes, you can borrow them anytime. And we have soil bags. We use A&L also, but you would then mail it in if you want to ever try that, so.
Yeah, and the working group, so once you do get funds, soil probes, those can be things that can be purchased and reimbursed back. Little trowels, diggers, just any supplies, that stuff can be reimbursed back to the working group. So you guys can have your own little supplies to take. So now we're going to talk a little bit about healthy soil versus a non-healthy soil. The soil structure here in the far left, you can see the soil aggregates. There's airspace, there's space for water to go through. So you can see that soil structure. On the left-hand side, with the healthy soil, the water infiltration, there's room for the water to go down. It's not compacted. There's a dark color to the soil, which is probably higher in organic matter. And then the soil surface is also covered with vegetation, so it's protected even more. It just looks better and prettier than the one on the right. Your unhealthy soil, it's got a weak structure. There's no water infiltration. The pores are just clogged or the water runs quickly out of it. The light color with the light organic matter. And then the soil surface is covered with like a crust on top. So soil water is particularly important in nutrient management. In addition to sustaining life on Earth, soil water provides a pool of dissolved nutrients readily available for the plant to uptake. So. Here we can just see some more, good healthy soil on the left. The roots are able to go down deeper than what they are on the right-hand side. You can see the pore space. The plant itself even looks bigger and just better all around. The other side, there's the surface crust, tightly packed crumbs near the top, and then larger like rock type material near the bottom with that compaction. So now we're going to get into the slump test. I feel like I've talked a lot, but this demonstration, I chose this because this is something that you can all go out and do very easily, and it only takes a few supplies. It's a good visual assessment. I know we can talk about, oh, well, cover crops help this and that, but to actually see something, I think it resonates with people. So this is a good little assessment to do with the landowner. Like I said, minimal supplies. You just need a cup, a sink strainer, and you don't even need a paper plate. If you're out in the field and you've got a shovel, use the back end of your shovel as your plate. So the supplies are minimal. We can determine our aggregate stability and how much the soil will actually hold and absorb water. So I think I don't know if we should do the demonstration first and see, or if we should watch the video.
Whatever you want to do.
Let's do the demonstration. I'll show you that real quick. So I brought some soil from behind my house. We have a field, like a 10-acre field. It was a crop field, and now it's turned into pasture. We've got clover planted and ryegrass. It used to be heavily tilled. I don't know if I said that already, but now there's minimal disturbance other than going out and harvesting the hay crop. So we'll see what this looks like. I think it probably, I would say 3 to be safe, maybe 4. So we'll see. This may be a flop, but hey, we're all learning, and it's an experiment. So when you get your soil out, you kind of want it to be, can we see? So this is really hard and dry, but you want to have smaller aggregates. You don't want these big clumps. Those are really big. really too big to kind of absorb the water. So we'll just kind of break this down. And we'll fill our strainer, and they have some extra. Okay. So we have our cup of water, and then we just set this down in there. Hopefully it doesn't go over the top. So we can see initially, there's a few, flakes going down, but we want this to absorb into the soil. There's some things that we can see on top. I see little air bubbles coming out. I don't know. Can they see this?
Not really well, but
Okay.
I think it's just as well as the
Okay.
people here, actually.
Okay.
I walk it around.
Yeah.
What about adjusting the mirror? Would that work over the top?
Can you guys see it when she shows?
Other way. There.
Can you see it? Oh, good, good.
Okay. So we want the water to cover all the soil. We just leave this set for about 45 seconds to a minute, and let the water infiltrate in there. Seeing the bubbles means there's pores, so that's a good thing. It has darkened up in color. It's not as light as it was. We can still see some of the soil drop off here where those aggregates have broken apart. So,
So it's just regular water
yep, just regular water.
with a strainer of your soil.
I'm gonna pull this out of here. We'll let the excess drain off. And then we just flip it over on our plate. And see what it looks like. So if it holds together, or if it comes apart, we can kind of slide it around here. A good healthy soil will look like brownie batter. That's what I describe it as like a thick brownie batter type. What we don't want is like a runny pudding type. So the more runny it is, yeah, the more pudding-like, the more unhealthy. So here we can see it's really kind of stayed together pretty well. It's slid around a little bit, so some of it's stuck to the plate. There's not a lot of water that's ran off. There's a little bit, so that tells us that the soil is holding in that moisture.
Move up just a little bit more for the people at home, just a little bit, move up your hand up a little bit.
Oh, my hand.
There you go, there.
There, okay, yeah. So these are just some.
Delicious.
So these are just some like initial assessments that you can make, for the landowner and say, hey, this is a good start. This is not a good start. But it's just that quick visual to see what your soil looks like. So this is actually holding together pretty well, even though I thought that it wasn't going to do very well because of how it looked before we got it wet. It's held together pretty well. So that's the slump test. Very easy. Very easy to do. So we can watch the video now. This is another lady from Purdue Extension, actually. She's from Montgomery County, and she's got some samples. I don't know, we might want to stop the video and pause and so we can look at some of them a little longer.
And it's okay to start around 2:40?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
So she's got different examples.
Or wide mouth, or preferably from two different locations.
Tilled versus till.
And you can dump those soil samples out once it's absorbed all the water, taking note of how well that soil held together. Check out some of these example videos of slump tests that were done comparing different farm field practices and also comparing a yard and a garden.
So here you can see the tillage, the tilled one instantly just broke apart. The non-tilled stayed together a lot better. This is the one, it's the tilled garden on the one side and then just a backyard on the other side. So you can tell what that tillage really does.
So what are some ways that you can improve soil health?
Do we pause and go back to that? Or you,
We can if anybody wants to look at them.
I don't know if people at home could hear you when you were speaking about it because we had the music going, but let's see. So this is the backyard on the left.
The backyard on the left and then the tilled garden on the right.
Turn up the music. Isn't that interesting? And it's interesting how the water, it's not like moving, it just kind of does. It just so fast because the pressure,
Infiltrates into-
is
Yeah.
moving so fast that the soil just isn't holding itself together. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Would you think that the no-till is holding better than the tilled is? Seems like the no-till is just letting that fall apart.
Yeah, yeah,
So-
those
So that would tell you
aggregates.
that you're kind of better off not tilling so much?
Yes, yeah, that shows that your aggregates are unstable and they just fall apart. So not tilling would allow those aggregates to stay, together more. Another thing, once this dries, if it's unhealthy, it will form that crust, out in the field, it will form the same crust here on the plate. So you'll be able to see that platy structure if it's unhealthy as well. So I think that's really all I had.
But we're gonna do.
Yours. We're gonna do your soil samples.
Do we have any questions before we do our soil samples?
Is the fact the aggregate is held together better because of the residual roots that remain in the soil as opposed to when you till, you break them up and you decompose it on?
Yep. It just loses all stability once it's tilled through.
Yeah, so it's not just the roots that you're losing, you're exposing those microorganisms to air on total sun, and they don't like that. They like to be in darkness and they have their own place they like to live. And so when you're exposing them to all that, they just kind of die and the carbon just comes off into the atmosphere. It's the carbon leaving the soil then because they're dying.
Yeah.
So the whole thing about carbon sequestration, this is it. This is what it is. It's keeping those microorganisms happy under the soil and not allowing them to die and off gas into the air.
Yeah, and if they're happy under the soil, they're providing that pore space for the roots to go through, for water to infiltrate. It all just works well together.
Okay, I'm sorry, this is Tony. I'm an intern.
Great.
So I guess my question, what I've gotten out of this is that tilling is bad. It's better leave it until, even though the soil may be a little harder, it's harder to plant, but it's better for the plants because we're not moving all the microorganisms and the carbon and all that stuff out of it. Is that what am I hearing?
Yes.
You can also do low till.
Yes, and I will say, some things in moderation are probably okay, if you need to initially break up all that compaction, break all that compaction up and then maybe plant cover crops to get the root system in there, to, keep those pore spaces open. Yes, things in moderation are okay too, I will say that.
Okay, thank you.
So did you just discuss about what to do about that? So planting things actually improves the soil.
Mhm. Yep. Planting cover crops will bring in the root life, then bring in, more living organisms, more earthworms, more beetles, your plant. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. Sorry, me again.
Tony.
So Vernon Township is moving their community garden into an area that's completely grass. So is the best option to find somebody that can come in and take that topsoil off, or not the topsoil, but take that top layer of grass off, but not till it after that?
I would leave it, depending on, I guess, how thick the grass is. You may need to mow it down, and then I would, directly transplant into it.
You could put cardboard over
Yeah,
it, and
yeah.
cover with cardboard.
Cardboard,
And then
tarp,
Plastic,
Um,
newspaper.
heavy mulch even.
Newspaper, yep.
Yeah, I wouldn't say you'd have to get rid of that. There's,
I'm doing I have a really large tarp because I'm gonna plant gourds this spring. And I have a really large tarp out in my field, got the grass covered right now, held down with bricks. And it's gonna kill it, and then
yeah,
I'm just gonna go in there and plant on top of the dead
yeah,
grass.
yep, that should work
And
just
then
fine.
mulch around
Yep.
my plants, that way it holds
Yep.
everything in. It's
Okay,
fine.
awesome. Those are great ideas. Thank you.
And I think Teresa and Steve actually have experience with tilling their pollinator garden and not tilling, if they don't mind sharing, because they have basically did experiment at their house.
Yeah,
I don't know if she'll share, but.
Yeah, I can. So, Lace is right. We have 3 pollinator patches right now. The first one was pretty much a complete and utter failure, because we did spend an inordinate amount of time tilling it. The second and the third one are much better. We did use, on the second one, we used the solarization, which is like one of the super sisters were talking about, basically covering it up and allowing the sun to basically bake the grass, and it doesn't get sunlight, and it doesn't get air and water, and it does kill it. And then we just basically raked it off. Same with the other one, except we used an herbicide to kill the grass. And then once it was dead, we started seeding. So, and in my talk that we had a few months ago, I definitely encouraged people not to till, because it will bring up the weed seed, among other things. Any questions?
Yeah, what about the other two? Which is better?
Probably the solarization.
Okay, thank you. I just want to know the end.
So on my rain garden, which was a big area, I did the lasagna type layering in the fall, early winter, and which.
Oh, I think you broke up, Artis, but we heard you did the lasagna garden to layer it, and did it kill your?
Is cardboard, your brown, green. I did cardboard, did some straw, did some hay, did some compost, and then come spring, it's all gone. You can plant because it's all composted and ready to go. So you can look that up later, if you want to get going and you don't want to take and laying the cardboard down and some compost, some green, and a couple of layers of brown and green.
Yep. And Tony, we have plenty of cardboard out here.
Compost. It'll be plantable, easy peasy.
Yeah, we have plenty of cardboard. Come get some. Yeah.
I got it. Since we've got a lot of clay soil in this area, what would the slump test look like with clay soil?
I would say I would hope it would hold together a little bit better.
And it'll slide off your plate.
Clay soil is actually really good soil. Clay soil holds a lot of nutrients and it should pass a slump test just like her soil right there. Because
This is probably, this is, I guess, more of a loamy soil. I'm down near the river in that area, but we don't have a lot of sand. So we're more like a loamy type down that way.
Did anyone bring clay to check?
I have the soil, I don't know how much clay.
I bet we have some. I mean, if it's from our county, I bet it probably does. So we'll have to check. Yeah. Yeah, can you show us how to do it? And the people at home will maybe move the video around if you guys don't mind here, because they like to see what you guys are doing, so.
So we'll need water. I didn't bring, I just got from the sink, so.
Okay, yeah. I wish we had those pictures. Oh, wait, you're not here. Okay, I'm gonna end this slideshow. Is that okay?
Yep, that is fine.
So we can contact Casey anytime we want. Oh, you can give us your cell phone.
Yes,
What?
so I actually work from home. Most of the time I do have an office with a phone, but calling my cell phone gets right to me, so.
I don't even have your cell phone. I need to put it in. my-
You've got it.
Okay.
And either email.
Okay.
I'll just put this stuff here.
I didn't get it. Did you remember?
I got the number. 812 798 8760.
And if I don't answer, leave me a message, so I've got record of it.
So, well, I have a question. More specific, to my particular Penzi needs, how much?
I just didn't know how we wanted to do it. We're very informal, so.
Okay.
Okay.
How many inches or whatever do you need to sustain a successful area? I mean, I have a bed, okay, like, rail bed, rock bed. How much do I need to put on top of that?
I would say 6 to 8 inches. That would be a good start, and always more. But yeah, at least, I'd say at least 6 to 8 inches. Because when you're soil testing, you want to get down at least that far, and that's where your roots will be and your nutrients and stuff. So I would say, yeah, at least 6 to 8.
That would, so if you got 6 to 8 inches, then you can sustain growth on top of that.
Yep. It could be something, you know, like a raised bed too. They don't have as much
I
depth.
know
in a
we're
raised
talking
bed.
about distance.
Yeah,
With
Water. Yeah. It's like we're in kindergarten. We just have fun. So, here, I can pass these around. Oh, yeah. She got cups of water. Soil, yeah, pass them around. See if it needs it, pass them around. Yeah.
Sure, a lot of the counties do that.
Oh, okay.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, we're working together.
We're gonna work together. I didn't work together. Mine was frozen, so.
Come we up. Oh.
How about that? That look like it? Yep, I think that'll work. We may need a little more tiny bit. Not much.
They'll probably come right over with a wonder.
That's good. That's good.
You can leave that there if you want. Let's play it. Don't put the day job in.
No. Okay, I'll give you. Okay, good. You need water all the way to the top.
All the way.
Yeah, all the way covering the soil.
Bruce needs more. Bruce needs more.
No, it's covering now.
Okay.
Oh, Bruce is done.
Here's some.
Oh, mine.
You need more water. Okay.
Running
Okay, I
over.
sorry, I went in there to get a paper towel. What's that called? Take a picture.
I was gonna say, I'm gonna take a picture of everybody.
You go walk around.
Okay.
But you're okay.
There are two trails that come out of it. And so that's around the shrub where it's been bigger. Yeah. That's good.
I know, I should have gone out, that's the my home.
Is anyone trying this at home? Did you get some stuff at home?
Wait on this strainer. Okay.
What you need?
Do you need a strainer?
Oh, do we have one?
I might have some at my dad. Yes, I think I only pulled out I wasn't sure how many to bring and how many to. I told him. I'll help you.
We'll try that.
Okay.
Some more.
Yeah.
Back by the garden. Up by your garden area. So how soon do you dump it?
Look, she has more. She got some.
You leave it in about 45 seconds to a minute. And then drain off some of the excess water so it's not running, and then you plop it onto your plate.
Is it? Are you sure? Yeah, it is. Okay, wow, your soil's so nice, Joe.
Well, that's right. Down there south. Okay. Well, why don't you speak for the yard?
Oh, we got one over here. Sorry, yes.
I got a few more. I got a few more.
There you go.
So there's some. I don't know. Casey was wondering if you guys had a strainer at home, you could practice, or even like a tea strainer, I bet you could practice with.
Yeah. Any size strainer,
Kind of like.
any size strainer, any size sample, just enough to go in the strainer.
Cover it with water all the way, 45 seconds, then put it on your paper plate or plate. Just to have it. Yep. Yes, we love if you wanted to share your video and show us.
It used to be,
Front yard.
It wasn't a building. Oh, no. Oh.
When I was.
Saving money.
Like, yeah. Yeah, but when you put it in there, look at it up, it's like everything. Well, I know. It's pretty much. It's outside. I think you just gotta pay. Yeah, yeah. Which still not.
It doesn't look like. It still has that granite consistency.
Not the, this slide is supposed to be there. How's it going?
Well, I used storm bales last year.
Oh, nobody likes it.
Sorry.
You're being. Look at oil that the critter has dug up from under one of my trucks.
Oh.
And I thought, oh, wait a minute.
But I use, this is a raised bed garden,
Together, but it is. Yep. Amazingly, yeah.
so it doesn't have any.
No, that's not good. I'll tell you, just kind of look good. Flattened out. You have to raise that.
Yeah.
What do you think that's okay? Don't tell me. I don't tell
I don't know what you think.
When you're drowning, Shane. Is it holding shape?
Okay.
Oh, it is. I would get a really extra.
Mine's a complete failure.
Okay. No, it's a complete failure.
No, really, everybody's is really kind of holding shape. We might be able to tell, maybe just some loose.
Yeah. Maybe drip a little bit. Yeah.
Not that around.
Oh, that's really
Yeah.
So I'm holding.
Making some mud pies.
I'm holding.
Yeah, I love it.
Now, this is yeah, well, I have 10 gardens. I don't have time to.
Although it's not, it's not, I like,
That line is
it's
very
not.
Yeah, I think that's.
Soil's not going to be. It's not doing that. You know, I just don't know. I just remember those.
I'm still learning, so yeah, it sounds like you're my girl I need to go to.
Oh, no, we.
Other than the north
This is the part right now. How much have we need to bring in here?
It didn't mention, but there's plenty of room in the pot for.
Yeah.
Sloping off. I mean, they're not like pretty, they're not pretty.
Yours is kind of on the side.
Okay.
Too far from the ground.
Have you ever done this way anyway? You know what, I have some of those little things that are for the green.
Yeah, I do too.
It actually, I never thought about it.
Then I have, then I also. I have so much. What are they doing with the water?
I have 2 years ago.
Okay, you're looking for the next
That was my whole, this year's stuff is high. I don't know what's happening.
Stay away from it. Check it
that area that you were talking about earlier about filling that.
Everything. No, what we have asked.
What was it? Well, it was showing things under a microscope. Do not open your mouth and be all shocked. There's all kinds of little critters, right?
Only Jane. Oh, we know, or sure Jane was gonna be here tonight. You should. On that.
That's about that. It's just making that way over there. Oh, no.
Scare Jane. Don't scare me.
Oh, you get an answer.
I know, I know.
And sugar is, your sugar's free. Like, hello, we're gonna have snakes.
Right. I know people don't want to cover. Do not.
She thinks
Right.
they know where the song is.
It's an area that the size is
I am starting to walk around. We would say walk around. Go. Well. So I walk around with walk. Yeah.
Will you be seeing any of
So I went to this gentleman.
Oh, I didn't bring the book.
Are we pitching our soil?
Oh, I don't need them.
Well, I don't know if anybody else needs.
I don't know what I'm gonna do. I put it in.
I didn't.
Just like now.
Teresa
again,
and then I can look at you and bring them.
I don't know how often he touches, but
Thank you.
it's not the same like when I was when you were talking about like. turns all this getting on. I don't know how often he touches.
What that recycle is non-recyclable.
I kind of. I won't lose against you.
I got plenty.
We'll drop it off at Sourceway on the way home.
Well, actually, what I'm gonna do when I'm down Thursday, I'm gonna pick up.
I have one here. Water.
Oh, okay. Got that one little one.
They said something about. Rain garden. And even, you said you don't plant anything around it.
So we plant on the side.
You do
so
plant
that-
around it. Okay.
that we clear the hedge like that.
January. And the next day.
I have,
So you
I
made it
think I've cleaned like my house, I've cleaned my area.
So you made it this very.
Just very, didn't I? Seriously.
Well, I You had, and.
Yeah, so we didn't, so we got that squared away. Okay.
Yeah, get rid of it.
Not like.
Yeah.
You did that.
I did that.
I never got it, so I'm working on it. Yeah. Or something like
Yeah. I do have like spring. That was.
I mean, that's. If I think of it all. Yeah, I know it's pretty common. I don't know if you can find it.
Cutting it off as close as you can on the base and then just putting here.
For the presentation, that would be, I'm pretty sure like, well. It's been around.
I just wanted to say bye, everybody. Thanks so much to our speakers. Bye. And the title of our next Green Thumb, there was a reason we had this presentation, is Healthy Soil, Healthy World, Gardening from the Ground Up. So I'm excited about it. March 19th, we'll talk more later.
Oh, so good.
Thanks, everybody. And the Zoom worked perfectly. I really appreciate that we were able to attend like this. Thanks. Good night.
Yes, and she's like in paradise.
Not yet, but she's going to be.
That's about you're free to go anywhere. All you had the power would be for the moment. I just needed to check, you know. I didn't want to walk out.
No, I don't know what. I don't think it's the top of it, but it's, like soft, like potato. And I guess it went on. It's just a bottle, and then and that's, it's like squishy. And then I like to use blue dye, just so that way it shows up. And I can see it. Way up a bit. And then just stop that and then into the stuff. Yeah. And it's called, yeah, that's what I call it, a little umbrella.
You know, and then-
Yes. And
It just adds up slowly.
you can get small bottles. I have this size. So I just do. Yeah, you can get bigger size.
So then it's slightly.
Yeah.
Took it off.
So any size. But yeah. Better
I thought it was all those segments ago.
I thought so.
What am I supposed to do?
Okay.
Just.
I didn't want to show my Okay, you're gonna have to give me a location of where you're from. Green County? All right, give me a town, give me something.
So I am in the middle of Terre Haute, Wilmington, and Vincent.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, okay.
So that triangle.
When you said southwest, I kept saying, okay, both.
Yeah, I'm not that far south. I still consider myself southwest,
All
but
right,
yeah, so Shackamack State Park,
Oh, okay,
Goose
okay.
Pond area,
okay.
that's where I'm
All
from.
right.
Yeah.
Glad I asked.
Yeah,
So that's, so you're heading back home after this?
I am.
That's quite a drive.
It's about 2 hours. It
Yeah.
only took me about 2 hours to get here, so.
I'll take better view than me.
Drive safely.
Thank you, thanks for coming.
It's yeah. Yeah. I can come to the door.
Yeah, I know, Bob. Going well.
But they've got the
I didn't see you yet.
All right.
Hey, you keep working hard. I'm still working.
I got one.
You did, you only get your hours in?
I got advanced in, I got a free pass to the next one. I know you get a whole presentation. I see it.
Was it St. Mounds?
Yes.
I wish I had went, right there too. It's Fort Harrison. Just, yeah. They have it once every month. That's right up to, right over here. Was it once a month? Well, you must have several.
Three and a half hours, and we did volunteer stuff. Say like some was volunteer. They come in at night, right, and the volunteers are there. You know, stuff and people that. Yeah, so I've already got advanced.
Good luck with it.
Yeah,
Like I have read.
I loved it. It was so
Oh, it is. Really cool.
Next, I can go to 4 of the next
group that's coming through, and before their things, I can figure out which ones I want to go to. And pick some
Yeah,
stuff
I never know about it.
for next year.
Marianne, good to see you again.
It's nice to see you again.
Every time I go by 400, I check out the trailhead.
I like the fact that it's clear now. Because our outdoor classroom is up, we're getting ready to get up time.
Well, let's just hope they don't build a warehouse next year. You're going down 400 north. You won't believe it.
Well,
You won't believe what you see.
when we come back from Myers, and then we're signing grocery or something on the north side, yeah, it's a mess.
Oh, unbelievable.
A total mess.
One warehouse,
And they're gonna,
parking for 2,000 cars.
but they're gonna build more,
I know.
and they keep giving them, what do you call it? A tax
I
rates.
know. I mean, that's convenient, again, it's fine. You know.
Well, okay, but when you're 3 to 4 and your 3 is against the 4.
they're not letting my
And you
rent-
talk to Shelby personally, he's like, oh, but they pay taxes. And I'm like,
Yeah, for 10 years.
uh-huh. Yeah. Well, it's nice seeing you again.
I'm gonna take another one.
Yeah, those were nice.
It was a nice, I'm glad you knew. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you for all your help.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for coming.
You have a long hunt down in Greene County. I know there's Split City.
Yeah,
You picked one of the smallest towns.
Oh, we know where all the small towns, I'm from Gibson County.
What else is
Yeah,
down there?
I was born there.
What
And so I go through that
Yeah.
area, and I live stopping at Goose Pond.
Yeah.
And
My friend, there's Split City at
Linton,
Worthington,
yeah, there's,
I can't remember.
on the other side of the county, then there's
Bloomfield.
Bloomfield. Yes.
Bloomfield, that's.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a long, it's a big
Yeah, it
county.
really,
It's a
once you
pretty
hit the river, it's a completely different side of the county than it is the other side.
Exactly.
Completely different.
Yeah. I've done a lot of exploring in Greece. Yeah, it's an interesting place to go.
It is. Have you ever visited the Tulip Trestle, the viaduct?
That's, oh, I almost forgot about that. I've been
Yes.
there a couple of times. Yes. People-
Beautiful place.
When you tell people about it, they go, yeah, what are you smoking?
They need to see it.
Oh, I know.
They need to see it.
Fisher told us about the Tulip Trestle, and that's how we found.
Oh, is that how you found it?
We've been there.
Okay.
It is, oh my gosh, I forget, what, 200 feet? Oh, it's a trestle over.
It goes over the road and it goes over the creek.
And yes, and now, the last time.
It's a train trestle.
Yeah, but.
Yeah, but I just.
Oh, no, you
You
can't
can't
walk.
get up.
Good.
You're not supposed to.
I'm walking off a train.
Well, you see people try to climb
Yeah.
the